Hi. I'm Sarah, and in this video, we're diving into the fascinating history of Ferrari, one of the most iconic names in the world of speed, style, and racing. From its humble beginnings in Italy to dominating Formula One tracks and producing some of the most legendary cars ever made, Ferrari's journey is full of passion, power, and innovation. So buckle up, and let's hit the road together through the story of Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari decided to pursue racing in 1908, at the age of 10. To this end, he eventually began a career as a racing driver in 1919. During the 1920s he worked for Alfa Romeo, both as a driver in various local races and as an employee in its Milan sales depot. In 1929, though, he broke from this line of work to found and manage his own racing team, which he named Scuderia Ferrari. Conceived as an outfit for gentlemen drivers and other amateurs, the team was founded through a £1 million loan from a local bank, with additional backing from the wealthy amateur racer Mario Tadini, Augusto and Alfredo Cagnato, two brothers in the textile industry, and the tire company Pirelli. It would be based out of Modena, Enzo's hometown. Enzo quickly set about negotiating with Romeo's commercial director and managed to secure a partnership between their respective companies. The intended arrangement was simple: Alfa Romeo would outfit their factory team, Alfa Corse, with its latest, most sophisticated cars, while Ferrari's Scuderia, stable of amateurs, would use lower-end cars and hand-me-downs from past seasons. Additionally, Ferrari would operate independently from Alfa Romeo, such that the automaker would be insulated from negative press whenever the team placed poorly. Enzo presented this as beneficial to everyone involved, as it allowed Alfa Romeo to stay active in racing with minimal effects on their other ventures. The team's first race was the 1930 Mille Miglia, using cars supplied by Alfa Romeo, and the first use of the prancing horse logo was at the 1932 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps. This initial arrangement did not last. After Alfa Romeo came under the control of the Italian state in 1933, their racing division was downsized, and Scuderia Ferrari functioned as the unofficial company team throughout the mid-1930s. Leading up to the 1934 Grand Prix season, Ferrari began conducting their own research and development while Alfa Romeo continued to supply racing cars, a situation that led to vehicles being engineered within Ferrari themselves. These include a streamlined variant of the Type B optimized for AVUS, and the bimotor, also based on the Type B, which was driven by two engines at once, one in front of the driver and another behind, each driving the rear wheels through a special split differential. These at-first Ferraris tended to be ad hoc and relatively primitive, as Alfa Romeo was facing rough financial outcomes with negligible support from the Italian government. During its heyday, the Scuderia Ferrari of the 1930s employed several notable figures including Vittorio Jano, who served as the team's chief designer, and drivers such as Antonio Ascari, Giuseppe Campari, and Tazio Nuvolari. From 1932 to 1935, Scuderia Ferrari also operated a motorcycle racing division, which was conceived as a way to scout and train future Grand Prix drivers. Instead of Italian motorcycles, the team used British ones manufactured by Norton and Rudge. Though Ferrari was successful on two wheels, winning 3 national titles and 44 overall victories, it was eventually pushed out of the discipline both by the obsolescence of pushrod motorcycle engines and broader economic troubles stemming from the Great Depression. 1938 to 1945, Auto Avio Costruzioni. In their early years, Scuderia Ferrari enjoyed considerable independence from Alfa Romeo, owing both to their loose partnership and the physical distance between Modena and Alfa Romeo's facilities in Milan. In 1937, though, Alfa Romeo began to reconsider this inefficient state of affairs, and at the end of the year they purchased 80% of Scuderia Ferrari's shares, absorbing it into the company. Enzo remained the team's manager until a restructuring in 1939, in which he was laid off. After this, he used his capital, sourced from his savings, a hefty settlement, and the sale of his team 2 years prior, to start his own automotive company, Auto Avio Costruzioni. Ferrari's new company, the direct predecessor of the contemporary Ferrari SPA, could not be branded by his surname for another 4 years due to a non-compete agreement he had reached with Alfa Romeo. The company produced only a single car, the Auto Avio Costruzioni 815, both examples of which failed to complete their inaugural race. Racing opportunities dried up after Italy entered World War II in 1940, and the company was mobilized for wartime production in 1941, It was not down on its luck, though, as it received lucrative contracts to manufacture military hardware. The most valuable of these contracts was for grinding machines under license from the German company Young, used to manufacture precision components, particularly ball bearings. Enzo Ferrari had a strained relationship with the Germans, who asserted he was never granted permission to manufacture Young's machines, and an ambivalent one with the Italian resistance movement, which distrusted him due to his ties with the National Fascist Party. Enzo appeased the resistance through various means, such as by safeguarding money belonging to the Italian Communist Party, and through a friend's payment of a 500,000 lira ransom targeted at him. The war had other effects on the company as well. In order to avoid the Allied bombing campaigns occurring throughout Italy at the time, Ferrari moved his factory from Modena to Maranello in 1943. Though the new plant was still bombed twice, once in November 1944 and again in February of 1945, Ferrari remains in Maranello to this day. The company primarily made grinding machines only after moving to Maranello, while in Modena they mostly focused on producing aircraft engines. Though he could not build any cars, Enzo continued to conceptualize new racing car designs throughout the war. In 1945, Auto Avio Costruzioni was renamed Auto Costruzioni Ferrari. The change in name reflected Enzo's desire to fully break out into the automotive industry. "I had had ambitious plans for launching out into the manufacture of high-quality cars," he once said. "I remembered that I had joined Alfa Romeo when they were endeavoring to produce one car a day, and I too had hopes of achieving this same target." 1946 to 1959, the beginning. In all, World War II was good for Ferrari, as the associated military contracts allowed the company to raise significant capital for post-war automotive production. It would continue to produce grinding machines, its most lucrative wartime contract, into the late 1940s in order to finance its racing operations. Gioacchino Colombo, an engineer on hiatus from Alfa Romeo, was tasked with designing a new Ferrari engine from the ground up. Enzo specified that it would follow a V12 configuration. This was both because the design could be applied to both sports cars and Grand Prix racing with minimal modification, and because he was personally impressed by the V12 designs previously produced by Auto Union, Delitzsch, Packard, and Alfa Romeo. He was also simply passionate about V12 engines. He recalled thinking about the layout as early as 1925, and he considered their sound to be the Italian interpretation of refined engineering. Enzo's co-workers and rivals considered his fixation on V12s to be irrational, and he was ridiculed for his choice. The resulting engine, commonly called the Colombo engine after its designer, was highly versatile. It would be used in various Ferrari models until 1988, by that point having tripled its displacement and nearly quadrupled its power output. Enzo also met with Luigi Chinetti that year, who convinced him of the potential value of selling his cars in the United States. Chinetti, who had been selling European racing cars since the 1920s, believed that the United States' dynamic economy could sustain Ferrari's racing aspirations far better than war-torn Europe. Enzo concurred, and on December 24, 1946, he made Chinetti his official North American importer. Ferrari vehicles were shipped to the United States, which was to become one of the automaker's primary markets, as early as 1949. 125S, the first Ferrari. The first Ferrari sports car, as well as the first car to use Colombo's new engine, was the 1947 125S, purpose-built for sports car racing. It achieved the company's first victory at the 1947 Grand Prix of Rome, where it was driven by Franco Cortese. Of the 10 races the car entered, it won 6, placed second in 1, and retired from 3. Cortese remarked that compared to his competition, the 125S was a more modern machine, indeed exceptional for those days. Ferrari itself tends to cast the 125S's production as the starting point of its history, marking 1947 as its founding date during its anniversary celebrations. The 125S was developed alongside the 125 F1, first raced for the 1948 Grand Prix season. The open-wheel racer's engine was identical to the 125S's except that, in keeping with regulations, it was fitted with a single-stage supercharger. It was first raced at the 1948 Italian Grand Prix, where its encouraging performance convinced Enzo to continue the company's costly Grand Prix racing program. Subsequent Ferrari models. Soon after debuting the 125S, Ferrari produced many other sports cars in a variety of body styles. Until the late 1960s, all of the company's road car models shared a characteristic layout, a front-engine design driven by a V12 engine. Enzo had a strong personal preference for this layout, arguing in later years that the size and weight of a typical Ferrari V12 made it difficult to place anywhere else in the car. In the earliest years of Ferrari's production, the difference between its racing and road models was very small. One author claims that it is so scant as to be strictly a matter of interpretation, and that even the more well-appointed cars were impractical to drive on the road. The 166 Inter, the company's first Grand Tourer, was a step away from the earlier, dual-purpose sports cars exemplified by the 159S and 166S. It was followed by the 195 Inter and 212 Inter, the engine inside growing progressively larger. The Inter cars collected a not insignificant track record through both factory-backed and privateer entries. The 166 was the 166 Inter's racing-oriented sibling. Though it was made in other styles, the car is perhaps most recognizable in its Barchetta configuration, bodied by Carrozzeria Touring. The 166 Barchetta was a capable racing machine. In 1949 it won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Targa Florio, and Spa 24 Hours, and the car's racing cachet helped build Ferrari's reputation very early in its history. The nickname Barchetta, meaning little boat, calls attention to the chassis' superleggera strengthening ribs, which grant the car a boat-like shape. The name was first used at the 1948 Turin Auto Show, likely applied by a journalist. In 2005, Motor Trend Classic placed the 166 Barchetta 6th in their list of the 10 greatest Ferraris of all time. The America series of Grand Touring cars began production in 1950, starting with the 340 America racing model. Enzo intended for the new car to compete against racers with high-displacement American engines. To this end, it was fitted with a 4.1-liter iteration of the company's new Lampredi engine, originally designed for Formula One. A road variant, the 342 America, was produced just 1 year later. The new car, intended for elite customers with negligible interest in racing, featured new bodywork and a detuned engine. Subsequent Americas followed in the 342's lead as luxurious Grand Tourers. The America series used the Lampredi engine until 1959, which in the process grew to a displacement of 5 liters. By 1953, Enzo, having grown tired of small-scale sales, hoped to expand and standardize the production of his road cars. The fruition of this wish was the highly prolific 250 series. The 250s, named after their 3-liter Colombo engine, were introduced in the midst of the company's transition from hand-built to series-produced vehicles, though the idea of a mass-produced Ferrari could be traced back to the 1953 250 Europa. The 250 GT Coupe became the first series-produced Ferrari in 1958, following an expansion of Pininfarina's production facilities. The 250 series was sold in an expansive array of body styles, including the US-oriented California Spider, a tighter-handling short-wheelbase version, and convertible iterations of the coupe body style. Racing-oriented 250s were extensively used throughout the 1950s and 1960s, many of them special variants of road cars, and several examples, such as the 250 Testarossa and 250 Tour de France, are known for their success on the track. Early racing success. The successful sale of these cars hinged on Ferrari's ability to win races, and Ferrari won many. Within just a few months, Ferrari had scored so many victories that it seemed like it had always been involved in racing. In 1952 Ferrari won its first Formula One season, filling the vacuum left by Alfa Romeo's departure from the series, and by 1957, just 10 years after beginning to race, Ferrari had taken home 3 Formula One World Championships, 3 World Sports Car Championships, 7 victories in the Mille Miglia, and 2 victories at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The drivers behind these victories were equally impressive. In 1949, a 47-year-old Luigi Chinetti became Le Mans' oldest champion to date after racing for 23 full hours, and later, between the 1952 and 1953 Belgian Grands Prix, Alberto Ascari placed first in every single Formula One race. Ascari's winning ratio, just over 40%, is the second highest in Formula One history. One of the more important races for the company's future was the 1951 Carrera Panamericana, a grueling transcontinental endurance race straddling Mexico's new highway system. Ferrari's entries, two 212 in Tours, achieved a 1-2 finish with the help of 4 drivers. Piero Taruffi and Luigi Chinetti finished first in a Vignale 212 Inter Coupe, while Alberto Ascari and Luigi Villarizi placed second in a similar car. Within the United States, which was to become Ferrari's largest market, the company's top performance at the Carrera solidified its reputation as a producer of pedigreed sports cars. This was a goal which race driver Luigi Chinetti had been working towards for half a decade. An immigrant to the United States, he had been Ferrari's official North American agent since 1946. Chinetti established the first U.S. Ferrari dealership, Luigi Chinetti Motors, in 1947. He imported his first Ferrari for U.S. sale in 1949, and managed other vehicle sales perhaps as early as 1948. After the victory in Mexico, he leveraged Ferrari's fame to scout out new buyers. He imported 212s and Americas to the U.S. with success, and sold 375 F1 Formula cars to participants in the 1952 Indianapolis 500. By 1960, 40% of all Ferrari vehicles were exported to North America. Later in the 1950s, Chinetti would also found the North American racing team, NART. NART operated as a privateer team, independent from Ferrari, and grew out of driver arrangements Chinetti had been managing since 1951. In its early days, the team aimed to place wealthy amateurs, not necessarily with much driving experience, into prestigious racing events. NART's 2 largest initial backers, the socialites George Ahrens Jr. and Jan de Virum, were very much of this stripe. Chinetti's racing operations gained credibility in the wake of the 1957 Cuban Grand Prix, when a strike among New York City's stevedores prevented several contestants' cars from being unloaded. Chinetti promptly provided replacement cars for the event, which were shipped directly to Havana via aeroplane. Thanks to Chinetti's special relationship with Ferrari, by the 1960s his team was attracting a slew of famous, storied drivers. Genesis of Dino. Enzo's son, Alfredo A. Dino of Ferrari, worked for a short but pivotal period for the company. Before dying of Duchenne muscular dystrophy at the age of 24, Alfredo helped design the 750 Monza and a new Formula 2-ready V6 engine. After Alfredo died, Vittorio Jano would ultimately finish his engine design, resulting in the Dino engine, bearing his name in his honor. Also named after Alfredo was the new Dino mark, first applied in 1957, 2 years after Alfredo's death, to the Dino 156 F2 open-wheel car. In the 1960s the name would come to be applied to a line of lower-priced Ferraris produced in cooperation with Fiat. Driver and bystander deaths. Some things surrounding Ferrari's racing program were less than savory. However, in the second half of the 1950s, Scuderia Ferrari would witness a string of fatal crashes. Alberto Ascari was killed behind the wheel of a Ferrari in 1955, as were Eugenio Castellotti, Alfonso de Portigo, Luigi Musso, Peter Collins, and Wolfgang von Trips in following years. The public was especially roused by Portego's death at the 1957 Mille Miglia, which accompanied a disaster that killed 9 spectators, 5 of them children. Protesters surrounded Ferrari's factory, and Enzo was called to stand trial for manslaughter. The court soon acquitted him, as the race's high spectator count and lack of crowd control made it highly unsafe. Von Trips's death 4 years later was accompanied by a similar disaster, where 15 were killed. When faced with these accidents, Enzo appeared more interested in his cars than in the people they had killed, and his team took to salvaging spare parts from their remains. L'Osservatore Romano once compared him to the ancient Roman god Saturn, who ate his own children in order to retain his power. Coach-building partnerships. Early in its history, Ferrari had no strong preference for any coach builder. After a chassis was finished in Maranello, it would be sent, per the buyer's request, to one of many local firms. The Ferraris of the 1940s and 1950s had bodies fabricated by the likes of Ghia, Bertone, Vignale, Touring, and Boano. 2 vehicles that were mechanically identical, but bodied by different coach builders, could look strikingly dissimilar. As Ferrari grew, Enzo became dissatisfied with this haphazard approach. He was concerned that his cars looked nothing alike, and that the coach builder's fabrication process was too slow to accommodate series production. The company's partnership with Pininfarina, which began in 1951, solved these issues, and allowed Ferrari to produce its cars at a higher volume. The 212 Inter was the first Ferrari to receive a Pininfarina body. Its minimal design, featuring a characteristic egg crate grille, became the base of a recognizable, long-lasting design language shared by both companies. The meeting that led to this partnership almost never happened. Battista Farina and Enzo Ferrari were equally headstrong, and neither of them wanted to leave their headquarters. Sergio, Battista's son, intervened and set up a meeting at a restaurant in Tortona, halfway between Maranello and Pininfarina's headquarters in Turin. Here the two were able to strike a deal, Battista claiming in his autobiography that one of us was looking for a beautiful, famous woman to dress and the other a world-class couturier to deck her out. The automotive press of the time predicted that the partnership would fall through, on account of the two men's strong personalities. Against these assertions, the venture turned out successful, and Pininfarina came to design over 200 Ferrari models over the course of 6 decades. Equally important was Ferrari's relationship with Scaglietti. Founded as a repair shop, it was located just across the street from Ferrari's facilities in Modena. According to Sergio Scaglietti, the firm's founder, he first caught Ferrari's attention after he rebuilt a Ferrari owner's wrecked car. As he worked, he made small changes to the car's bodywork, hoping to improve its aerodynamics. Enzo Ferrari was so impressed with Scaglietti's work that just days later, he commissioned him to build bodies for the 500 Mondial. Sergio's shop is said to have hammered its bodies on the fly, without assistance from drawings. While Pininfarina specialized in passenger car design, Scaglietti primarily constructed racing bodies. Several Ferraris, including the 250 California Spider, 250 GTO, and 250 Tour de France, were designed by Pininfarina and then built by Scaglietti. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of Ferrari's legendary history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. It really helps us keep going. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and tell us what you think about Ferrari's story. And if there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover, let us know. Our team reads every single comment, and we're always excited to create something special just for you. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in part 2. Stay legendary.